Hello, folks. This is Julie Henricus, and I'm the Executive Director of Sisters in Crime. And I am really delighted to be on here with Sherry Harris. We are delayed a little bit, and so I look stumbling for a while, but I promise I know what I'm doing. Um, Sherry, thank you for doing this live with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I can't wait to have this conversation. But before we have this, I just want to kind of give you all a couple of housekeeping things. One is a reminder or to let you know that the SinC Summer Scrawl starts tomorrow. So this is a 31 days because it's for the month of July. Every single day, we're going to do 5 write-ins. We're going to do some social media sprints. We'll do lives as we always do every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern time, but they will be on craft topics throughout the month of July. And all members are invited to join. Not a member of Sisters in Crime, you should join, and you should join today using the code SUMMER26 because that will give you a half price off our normal membership. You'll be a member through the rest of the year. So what a deal. That's $30 for a professional membership for the rest of the month. So for July, that's less than $1 a day for 5 write-ins. There's much more to SinC than just the transactional write-ins, but they're a pretty great way to start. If you've never done a write-in, there's some magic about them. You're not on camera, which is good because you can show up however you are, but you can talk to people on chat. You write for 25 minutes, take a break, and write for another 25 minutes. And there's something about being in community and committing to doing this that really helps you reach your goal. And for the Summer Scrawl, you set your own goal so that you can say, I'm going to write this many times a week. I'm going to write this many words. I'm going to edit for this long. I'm going to research. Whatever you do, it's just you're making a commitment to yourself through the month of July to do it, to show up and to do it. So we hope that you'll join us, and we hope that you'll join SinC. And Sherry and I are going to talk about the Pride Award as well today. But I want to just mention that the Pride Award is for emerging LGBTQIA plus crime writers. It's a $2,000 award, and submissions are open through July 31st. And in order to be eligible, you need to have published fewer than 10 short pieces of fiction or 2 novels, and that would make you eligible. And there's much more information on our website about that. So I'm really happy to talk to Sherry Harris today. Sherry and I have been friends for a long time. She's a fabulous human being. We were laughing a little bit in the green room, as it were. And this is my first time using this software. And so I figure I needed to be on here with somebody who could bear with me in case we had to go on the phones or do anything else. But Sherry, thank you for being here. Sherry has written 2 long-running series. And she also, I know, has a couple of other books that she's working on. She is a multifaceted writer. She has also written a lot of short fiction, which is great. And she's just a wonderful person to have in our community. So Sherry, welcome to this Instagram Live.
Back at you too.
So I have titled this, The Importance of Showing Up and Making a Difference with Sherry Harris. Is that a good title?
It is a good title. I like it.
So I'm just going to give you some prompts, as always, in these Instagram Lives. They're short conversations, and we are going to talk about 5 tips within that topic. So the first one is going to events and conferences. So Sherry?
Yeah, I know that going can be really scary, especially when you're new to the writing community. My first conference I ever went to was in Monterey, California. It was a very small conference with maybe 40 people. And they gave us an opportunity to read some pages, and I was reading mine in front of this group of strangers, and I was thinking, this is really bad. This is terrible. I am so embarrassed as I was reading this. And so, but even though it wasn't the great piece of fiction I hoped it was, I got a lot of encouragement. And I think that's what Sisters in Crime does for you. They give you encouragement and help you on this journey. Then my first ever Malice I went to, again, terrifying, a bigger conference. And I'm pretty outgoing, so for me to be scared, I can understand how everyone can be nervous about going. And I was standing in line in the restaurant, waiting to get into the restaurant all by myself. And this woman turns around and says, "Do you want to eat with my friend and I?" And her name was Lee Harris. And she wrote a wonderful series of books about an ex-nun and just was so kind and made such a difference doing that. And then, of course, Julie, as you know, we met at the Malice banquet. We just happened to be seated together at the same table. My husband was in the Air Force, and we were getting ready to move to the Boston area where I didn't know a soul. Julie, there she appeared from the Boston area. You tell me, you have to join Sisters in Crime. You have to go to Crime Bake. And both of those simple statements were life-changing, from becoming friends with you and so many other people to becoming a published author. So go to conferences, even if it's scary.
Go to conferences. And I just want to underline a couple of things you said. And one of them is, even though it's scary, you do it. Being a writer and admitting aloud that this is not only something you do, but something you dream of, is to become a published author, is brave. But everyone's rooting for you when you're in these groups. And if somebody isn't, then go to another table.
Yes.
But that's, be brave, because that's something you have to do.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. So the other tip that we have is volunteering. So talk to me about the importance of volunteering.
Well, I think one of the things that you really have to think about is it doesn't have to be some big, enormous job. It can be something that, like sitting at a table and passing out information about your chapter, or volunteering to do Facebook posts, or if you have expertise in an area, volunteering to share that. One good example out of, I think, my life is that when we were stationed at Hanscom Air Force Base in Massachusetts, I coordinated a meeting so the head of security for our base, who was a female, came and spoke to the chapter, and it was just a great event. And so even if you don't have expertise, you might have something in your life that can be shared with other people that might help them in their writing journey.
And another way to volunteer is, if you are going to a conference, they always need volunteers to check people in, or to stuff bags, or to, be a room monitor or things like that. So especially if you're shy or introverted, that's a fabulous way to help, but also to meet people and create a group that you'll know throughout the conference.
Right. I love being a room monitor. You always hear the most interesting things, so that's always a good thing.
And we always need good room monitors to tell you when to stop. So this is a leading question, but another tip is saying yes. And you've done that a lot, especially for Sisters in Crime. So can you talk about the importance of saying yes for both, for your writing life and for your publishing life?
Well, I obviously say yes to things since I'm here.
Exactly.
But saying yes is really important. So my writing journey started, well, not started, but I finally got published because Barb Ross sent me an email saying her agent knew an editor at Kensington that wanted somebody to write a garage sale mystery, which I'd never in my wildest dreams thought about writing. I'd been writing this book about a gemologist, and but I said yes. And 9 books later and a few short stories, it
Right.
was one of the best things I ever said yes to.
Yeah.
And I think, you can say yes to a lot of things, like help writing a blog post for somebody, or doing a book blurb. There's so many ways to say yes. And again, it can be scary. I remember the first time I wrote a blog, I sent it to Edith Maxwell to make sure it was okay. So get that community and say yes.
Well, the next getting yes, this segues, but I want to talk about board service. So Sisters in Crime has over 50 chapters around the world. And, then the worldwide organization, which I was on the board for 5 years, needs board members, but every chapter also needs board members. And so being of service and being willing to say, yes, I will serve on the board is work for sure. But it's also the way to make really wonderful friends and to feel accomplished, like, oh, we pulled this off. So you've said yes a couple of times to Sisters in Crime board service, starting with the Chessie chapter.
Right. And it's so funny because I was at BoucherCon, and Marcia Talley and Donna Andrews said, oh, can you meet with us? And I was like, oh, maybe they want me to help out with publicity or something. I would love to do that. And I went down and they said, would you be president of the chapter? And I was like, what? But I said yes. And it was a really good experience. I was such a novice and I was scared, but I had the support of the board and the other members. I had a great vice president who was Art Taylor, and it was work, but it was good work, and it made me happy and feel, and it was fulfilling. And that kind of segued into being president of Sisters in Crime Worldwide, which is, again, another thing. I volunteered to be on the board. I was like, I could be library liaison or bookstore liaison. And Kendall Lynn said, can we meet about this? And I was like, oh, sure. And then she asked me to run to be president, which, again, absolutely floored. But oh my gosh, it was such an honor, and finding out ways to help people while I was on the board. And we had a wonderful board, and those people are still friends. And we started the webinars the year I was president. And I have to say, it's not because I figured out the technology, and oh my gosh, all the things that have sprung from that, and all the things, with the tips and the podcast and the blog, and just, it's so great. It's so great.
Well, and so for anyone who belongs to a chapter, the thing is, I was the president of the New England chapter and was on that board for several years. And that's, again, I said yes. When people asked you to do something, I said yes. But if you're in a chapter, volunteer to be on the board. Maybe you don't have to go the presidential route, but chapters really need board members.
Right.
And it's just, there's something about working with a team of folks to pull it off that's incredibly rewarding and fulfilling. And it also, these are writers. These are people who are doing what you want to do so that you're building that community as well. So I'm just going to, keep encouraging people. If you belong to a local chapter, volunteer for them. And when they're doing a board call, consider stepping up and helping them, because every chapter I know of can use more board members or could use folks interested in being in the pipeline.
Right.
Right.
I agree.
So Sisters in Crime Worldwide. And just wanted to put a pin in the fact that when Sherry was president, we started to do webinars. Well, that was before COVID. So thank heavens we had figured that out before we really needed to. And, we've continued to do, a couple of webinars a month. We have 3 webinars this month. So there's going on. They're free for all SinC members. They're $15 if you're not a SinC member. But SinC members also, we put all of these into the webinar library so that when you need refreshing or you need to be re-inspired, you can go into the webinar library and look at things. I mean, there's a Jess Lowry webinar on editing that every time I work on editing, I rewatch that webinar just to sort of like, okay, you can do this. Here are the tools. So
Right.
again, that comes with your membership.
And I think, I'm not much of a plotter, Julie, but I like the webinars on plotting because it teaches me techniques to use that don't have to be great, big, and complicated. It's just,
Right.
there's so many great webinars to watch. And sometimes you just need a little inspiration, and watching one of them will make you go, oh, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, and a reminder as we're getting ready for the summer scroll, and Sherry and I could talk about this for, a 2-hour webinar, but there's no one way to do this, and you're going to change the way you do it a lot as well. But if
Right.
anyone says, in order to write a book, you must blah, 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 they're lying to you. You need to figure out how you do it. And if it isn't working for you, you got to find something that does. But there's no one way to do this. The only way to do it is to do it, and it's work. But
Right.
it's good work, right? Yeah,
It is.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Yes, the plotting and enhancing a conversation is one that actually writers have with each other all the time. So
They
I
do.
remember Sherry once telling me, I asked her how a novel was going. She said, I just wrote the last scene. I said, oh my God, that's great. Because when we talked a couple of weeks before, she had just started. She said, yeah, now I just have to write the other 70,000 words to that last scene. And she always jokes about the look on my face, which is like, what?
It was horror. How can you write a book like that? And I'm like, I'm sorry. The end came to me. I thought I better write it down.
Needless to say, plotters and pantsers, right? We're all different.
Right.
So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this and the importance of showing up and making a difference is because SinC presidents have projects that they can do. So that when you're the SinC Worldwide president, you're from vice president to immediate past president. So It's a 3-year journey. It's a 3-year commitment.
Right.
Tracy DeHaan is our current immediate past president. She'd also served on the board for like 4 years. So she's in her 7th year on the board. That doesn't normally happen, but we're grateful it did with Tracy.
Yeah.
But, it's a 3-year commitment. But in your immediate past president, you're sort of there to guide and to help, with events or whatever needs to happen. But you also have a project that you can take on, and it can be big splashy, it can be something that is unique and just sort of fills a void that you felt was there. But talk to us about your immediate past president project, Sherry, and what drove you to that, making that decision.
So my immediate past president project was the Pride Award. And really the impetus of it started before I ever dreamed I'd be on the national board. When I went to a SinC Integrate Writing in 2016 in New Orleans about at BoucherCon. And it was a diversity panel, and one of the speakers was Greg Herron. And he talked about how his mystery books weren't in the mystery section, but in a special section for gay and lesbian authors. And I was just so saddened by that and thought it was so wrong. And so when I became president, and then you start thinking, gosh, I need to do this project. And that always was in the back of my head. And so I approached the board about doing something similar to our Eleanor Taylor Bland Award for crime writers of color. And they were enthused about it. And, we wrote it up and went back and forth a bit. And the first one started in 2021. And so this is our fifth year. Sixth year. Math was never been my forte.
Well, it's tricky with years too, because but it is the sixth Pride Award.
Thank you. And I think that one of the things that I want to mention is you don't have to be a member of Sisters in Crime to apply Absolutely. For the award. You just have to be someplace in your writing process. You don't even have to have a full manuscript. Right. So it just, and I felt like it continued. Sisters in Crime started to lift up women writers. And to me, the Eleanor Taylor Bland lifted up crime writers of color. And this one can lift up LGBTQIA writers. And so it fit so well to me too.
Well, and so Sisters in Crime was a conversation in 1986 with a steering committee that formed it. And then in 1987, the first president of Sisters in Crime took over and started the organization. The first president was Sarah Paretsky. We've had an amazing group of presidents since. Raquel B. Reyes is on this call. She is the current president of Sisters in Crime. Deborah Goldstein is the incoming president of Sisters in Crime. And, just amazing writers and people who gave up, a year of their life in order to make this organization better and to help with the board, because it's a working board. It's a big organization, and we don't limit ideas based on how much staff there is, which is both a pro and a con. We just keep going with it.
Yes, I know.
As someone who's worn several hats at Sisters in Crime. But the Pride Award and the idea of lifting up everybody is that's the reason Sisters in Crime was started. And we were started as an advocacy organization because women crime writers weren't getting the same number of reviews. They weren't getting the same placement in bookstores. They weren't doing all these other things. And people wouldn't believe that that wasn't true. And so they started to do counting things and to, create lists of books that they would send out to booksellers and libraries, and started to change things by lifting everybody up. And it only makes sense that Sisters in Crime embraces other underrepresented voices and does what we can to lift them up. Also, there's an intersection there, right? Where we've got, most people are a lot of different things, but it makes sense. So the Pride Award is a really wonderful opportunity for the winner, who gets a cash prize, but the winner and the 5 runners up, because of the way Sherry designed the award, they all get mentors, which is also a tremendous boost to people's
And I know
journey.
Cheryl Head is still mentoring people that, and she was one of the judges in the first award. And so it's it's a great thing. It's a great opportunity for people who are mentors and for the people who get a mentor. So,
Yes. Yes.
right.
Mentoring is a great thing to do because you learn as much as your mentee. I
Exactly.
really,
Exactly. I agree.
it's very, yeah, it's a great opportunity. Um, so Sherry Harris, you do good by showing up, my friend. And
Thank you.
thank you for being here with me today and for having this conversation.
It's been
Um,
fun,
and
Julie.
and being a part of Sisters in Crime.
It's
Yeah,
been my honor. I mean, honestly, so much opened up once I joined Sisters in Crime. I got a
yeah.
lot of rejections before Sisters in Crime. Well, I got quite a few after too, but eventually the yes came. So,
But the difference is you got friends who know what you're going through. So when you get those rejections, they help lift you back up. And so
exactly.
everybody needs writers. So no
Yep.
matter, what, please join Sisters in Crime. But if you write in another genre or, whatever, just find your community of writers because
Right.
you need community to write.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think Sisters in Crime is good for all writers because of our webinars. They aren't,
Yeah.
just for mystery writers. They help any writer.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while we'll do a webinar on forensic science or
Yeah.
police procedures because we find we're
Right.
going to do one this fall on art thefts. So, we enjoy that kind of stuff. But, dramatic structure is dramatic structure. I mean, everybody
Absolutely.
can benefit from that.
I
All
agree.
right. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Bye now.
Bye.